What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Powered by Primus, and in today's video I'm going to be showing off the Shockwave deck that I've recently built and I'm having an awesome time playing with, and it is actually really powerful. It is probably one of my favorite decks to be playing right now. It is just something that really has a lot of power, but it's also allowed to defend for quite a bit. It's got a lot of really interesting stuff with the list that we're going to be showing off. It's got a lot of shenanigans, and this thing really has the potential to not only shut down your opponent, but then finish the game once you do. One of my biggest issues with Shockwave when I first started testing with him is that he was extremely powerful and it was very possible to take away my opponent's resources. However, when it came down to finishing the game, it took way too long and I was always going to time, and I was having a lot of issues, like I said, just really finishing my opponent. However, with this list, I don't want to say that I've cracked the code, but I finally have found a list with Shockwave that I really love, and even going to game 3, I'm still able to really go through all 3 of my games as long as my opponent is really kind of pacing themselves at a good pace as well. Really, probably that 35-40 minute mark, but still enough time to really be able to do some other stuff. I think the longest match that I've had with this deck is at about that like 42-43 mark, which is really awesome. But like I said, that is also my opponent who does know what they are doing and are pacing themselves just as well. Not to mention, I do have a little more practice with the deck, so I do play it faster than you probably will if you do sleeve this thing up and start right off the bat, because there are some interactions that are a little bit iffy, but we'll get into all of that as soon as we get into the deck. Now, obviously, we're going to be talking about the characters first, and the first one coming in is going to be our Golden Flame War. It was really funny. I did draw Super Saiyan hair on this Flame War, not this Flame War. I have another gold version, but unfortunately, I don't have it on me. I did leave it somewhere else, so I can't show that off, but in the next one I will. But I drew some Super Saiyan hair on her, which is really, really awesome, because she really is one of my favorite characters, and this golden card is amazing, so thank you, Wizards. But she is a specialist, which is important. She does have 3 attack, 10 health, 1 armor, and each of your characters has tough 1, which is really nice and really relevant. When you flip to this mode, she does give each of your characters bold 1, which again is relevant with this list. It is a mixed list. That's something that I'm really, really digging right now, is mixed lists. I'm really starting to evaluate the power of them. I'm going to be doing a separate video talking about that, because there is a lot of chat that I am getting with a lot of people who are having issues with meta and some of the other stuff. So we're going to be doing a separate video for that. But the bold 1 here is going to be really, really relevant and is really nice. Come over here to Swoop, who is the really interesting character. Now, originally, Stefan from S.Akuma, big shout out to him, really showed me this character in this team lineup. He runs a very different deck, but I did see him running this list at Gen Con, and it has a lot of benefits, which is really awesome. So I am running Swoop in the list. He is a specialist, getting in for 5 attack, 10 health, and 0 armor. However, we're really not ever keeping him in this mode. There are times where he will get to this mode, which we'll get into later on, but we mainly want him in this mode. But we do, as I said, again, flip him when we are going for some shenanigans, which we'll get into later. And it is because when you flip to this mode, you get to move 1 damage from this character to an enemy. Now, that 1 damage is really relevant. First off, for me, I always seem to have this curse in this game where my opponent's characters live with 1 health. Oh, it is super frustrating. However, Swoop does get rid of that issue for me, which is really awesome. And then he is also fantastic if you are going up against Scrapnel, who has that really awkward health pool where 2 swings into him, he takes 6 damage and always has that 1 left, which is really, really scary because of his other abilities, and just being able to survive for a turn is really dangerous. However, with Swoop, you're able to move one of those damage counters over to Scrapnel, gets rid of him. You guys did see in my last video where I did post this, I did flip Swoop to KO my opponent's Wheeljack, who did survive with 1 on a swing. So it was really unfortunate that the Wheeljack did survive. However, it was easy to take him out. With Swoop, I've KO'd lots of characters by flipping him, which is really, really awesome. Also, if you don't want to really waste an attack into a character that has 1 health left, is really awkward. So again, him being able to do his thing is really nice. And then obviously into our main character of the deck, we have the big major Shockwave. He is leader. He is a specialist. They're all specialists. We are going to have some cool cards that do interact with that in the list. And then he does have 7 attacks, 17 health, and 2 armor while in this mode. It says you may look at the top card of your deck at any time. Now, this is very relevant and is really the entire build behind the list. I spent so much time really exploring that ability, trying to really maximize it and really try to understand the potential of it, because it is probably one of the most powerful abilities in the game. The next part says, well, while the top card of your deck has a Decepticon, is a Decepticon card or a secret action, you may play it as though it were in your hand. Now, it does count as playing it from your hand as if it were that card still. So if you have an upgrade on top of your deck, like a Scoundrel's Blaster, you have his weapon, that does count as you playing an upgrade for the turn, even if you are playing it off the top of the deck. Same thing with a secret action, or even Decepticon cards that are actions that have the Decepticon logo, which I'll show you guys when we get into it, because it can be a little confusing. That also does count as playing your action for the turn. And then when we flip into this mode, he has 6 attack, 3 armor, and it says you may look at the top of your deck at any time still. And then when you flip to this mode, you get to draw a card, and your opponent scraps a card from their hand. Super, super powerful. Now, one thing that is really good about Shockwave as well, and I don't know if you guys know this, but most characters want to attack in bot mode. They usually will always be higher statted for their attacks while they're in this mode, just so they can always really try to crack in for the most while they're in the mode. Now, it's really sad to sometimes attack in alt mode because you do lose a lot of power, you do lose a lot of attack, whatever the case may be. However, with Shockwave, it's really nice to even attack with him in this mode. We do have orange pips in the deck, so we don't really lose out on a whole lot of damage. You lose 1 point of damage, but you do have the 3 armor, which is really relevant, especially in a mixed list. Sometimes your flips are just bad on defense, so that 1 extra armor is really nice. I will say, in a match that I unfortunately did not record, there was a point when my opponent attacked for 13 damage, and I was able to block for 12 damage and only take 1, which was really strong. So it just goes to show that, like, the powerhouse that this guy has on both attack and on defense. And we also have another way to sneak out some extra damage when it comes to him on attack mode, which we'll get into here in just a second. Now, talking about upgrades first, because there are less of them. First one coming in is going to be an Enforcement Batons. We'll move that all the way over there. Enforcement Batons is an orange battle icon. Really nice, because we are going to be, like I said, doing a mixed list, so we do want oranges and blues. So we're going to have that orange. It does give us +1 attack. It is a green, which means that we can fish it when we need it, which is really powerful. We cycle through so much of our deck with Shockwave. It's absolutely insane. I do run 41 or 42 cards in the list. I know that I had 44 in here at one point, and it's not that it was bad. It just, there was a couple of cards that didn't make a lot of sense. But you can run more cards in a list with Shockwave because he cycles through your deck so much, which is really nice. Again, it's got that green. We can fish it if we choose to. It is a weapon. It says when you put this on a character, you may scrap an enemy weapon. Now, this is mainly designed to be able to make sure that our opponent doesn't have any really terrible weapons they're using against us, like energon axes. You can't really stop grenade launcher, but if they have like laser cutlass, piercing blaster, some of those really powerful lingering weapons, as I like to call them, it's really nice to be able to get those things off of the table. Next one coming in as a 2-of is going to be Sparring Gear. Now, Sparring Gear is especially really powerful in this deck. Now, I really wanted access to an armor. However, I didn't want to have a blue armor because I really didn't want the blue pip. I also didn't really want to rely on getting this armor because they don't have a way to be able to get them back. But then I remembered Sparring Gear, orange battle icon, which is what I was going for here to be able to push that extra damage. Gives us the tough 2, and it is green, which means that it is fishable. So when we do see it, we're able to scrap a card from our hand and pick it up, which is really powerful. And then if our opponent does get rid of it, it goes back into the deck, and again is really easy to get because Shockwave is flipping so much, and because we are getting it because of the green pip, is really, really powerful and a fantastic card in the deck. Next card coming is a 2-of, and really interesting when you look at Sparring Gear, is going to be Gyro Blaster. Now, Gyro Blaster is almost a mainstay in most decks that I build. I definitely tend to build more mid-range or more controlled lists. I've played a lot of aggressive decks. It's just really not my playstyle. I obviously can build them and pilot them really well, but Gyro Blaster is such a good card. First off, it's a utility, which is really powerful, especially on Shockwave, for a couple of different reasons, which we'll get into. But it is a utility, so it doesn't take up any real important slots with him. And then it says, when the upgraded character battles, each player can't flip more than 2 cards during this battle, and does give us +1 attack, which is really nice. So even in this mode, we're going to have access to 7 attack, and then in this mode, we're going to have access to 8 attack, which is super powerful all by itself. And then obviously when we're attacking in this mode for 7 damage, we have 3 armor. If our opponent is running an aggro list themselves, it really helps shut down bold. It really even helps shut down tough if you're going to be against an opponent with tough. I've used it for both ways. If our opponent has tough 3 or tough 4, Shockwave doesn't really hit for a lot of damage. But again, being able to play this turning off their tough, and now you're hitting for 8 or 9 that they just can't block. Or again, if they're trying to swing for Bold a billion, really good against Lionizers, Grimlocks, supercharges, power punches, all those good things. To be able to then block if you flip 2 blues and you have 5 armor. It's really hard for your opponent to take down Shockwave because he does have so much health, and this thing is really pesky to get rid of for most opponents unless they are running that ramming speed or vaporize. It's really hard to take out this card. Next one coming in is a 3 of is going to be Grenade Launcher. Orange battle icon. This card is so fantastic. I mean, it just pushes so much damage. But the thing that makes this so powerful is that you get to avoid bold. Now, what I mean by that is that there's a lot of hate for bold out there right now. So it's really easy to get shut down if you're trying to push a bunch of damage through bold, especially like in my meta. We have a really good way of shutting it down. This is a card that your opponent cannot shut down. It's straight 4 damage, which is really powerful. Yeah, it goes at the way at end of combat. We have a way to really sneak this thing back from our scrap pile, which is really powerful. But getting in just straight 4 damage is really good. Putting this thing on Swoop, you're swinging for 9. Putting this thing on Flame War, you're still swinging for 7. Now, this is all before flips, so this is a really good card to help you push damage when you absolutely need to. Next card coming is a 3 of is going to be Handheld Blaster. Now, this is in here for the double blue battle icon. I have yet to ever play this thing for the weapon side of it, giving us bold 1. Now, normally I would say it's not a bad card to be able to play because it does give us bold 1 and we are rocking some orange battle icons. However, I'm always playing a different weapon, so I've never ever played this, but it is in there for that double blue battle icon, which is very, very important. Next card coming in, and probably one of the best cards in the deck, is going to be the Gamma Disruptor Launcher, which is a weapon for Shockwave specifically. This card is what really makes this deck and really makes Shockwave a super competitive, powerful character. Now, first off, it is a blue battle icon card. Next thing is a weapon, and it says you get to put on Shockwave only, and you can have up to 2 of them in your weapon slot, which is so powerful. That is a permanent grenade launcher. Just so you guys know, +4 attack means that you're swinging with 10 in alt mode before flips, and you're swinging for 11 while in alt mode, or I'm sorry, in bot mode. Super, super powerful. Not to mention, it also says when you play this onto your Shockwave, your opponent scraps a card from their hand. Now, there are many, many plays that you can do in this, to where you can even scrap 3 or 4 cards from your opponent's hand in 1 turn by playing just a few things. I'm going to show a card here in a minute, an action that's going to help us do it. However, if you're in this mode, you get to sit there, flip him over, your opponent scraps a card, you draw a card, then you get to play this, and then your opponent has to scrap another card. That is 2 cards for just flipping a character and playing a weapon, and then again, if you even have one of them, you're now swinging for 8 damage before flip. So it is super, super powerful. Not to mention, it does have the Decepticon logo on here. I'm going to try to put a bigger one on screen. I don't know if you guys will be able to see that, but there is a little faded Decepticon logo in the bottom of the card, and it also has purple in the name. Now, the purple in the name is not a clear indication that it is a Decepticon card. However, it 99% of the time means it. But like I said, I'm going to be showing you guys another card here in a second, which is going to be Reclaim, that has something a little different as far as the looks go for it. But it has that Decepticon logo in the back, so that does count as a card for you to get off the top of your deck with Shockwave's ability. And then the next one coming as a 3 of is going to be Field Communicator. Now, this is the card I was talking about. This thing has a lot of powerful things that you can do with it. All of our characters are specialists. However, I'm usually putting this thing onto Flame War or onto Shockwave. Shockwave is always usually my first choice, unless he is kitted with a Gyro Blaster, and I need the Gyro Blaster to be there. Then I do put that onto Flame War. However, there are turns where I've put it onto Swoop, which I'll show off some really cool combos here at the end of the video that you can do with it. It is a Y Battle Icon card, allowing us to flip 2 more on attack or defense, which is really, really nice. Really maximizes that white pip potential. And then it is a utility as well, so it's really nice. It doesn't take up our weapon slots to remove from our launchers or our armors if we are running Sparring Gears and we're not using Gyro Blasters. It does give us +1 attack and says when you put this on a specialist, you may scrap the top card of your deck, you may play that card. Now, like I was telling you guys, we have lots of shenanigans that use the top of the deck. We always, always, always know what is on top of our deck because of Shockwave, so this card is never useless. You look at the top card of your deck. If it's an Handheld Blaster, Obviously, you don't play Field Communicator. One of my big issues with Field Communicator is that it's more of a gamble card. You have to play it and hope the top card of your deck is something that you need or want. Let's say you have a grenade launcher down for the turn, and you go to play like Field Communicator, and then you reveal another grenade launcher. Well, that kind of sucks. Or if it's another weapon that you can't put onto a different character, well, then it's kind of crap. You really kind of wasted the ability, or maybe it's an action that you just don't really need, or maybe you flip an Espionage, but your opponent already has no cards in hand. It really becomes a bad card. However, again, with Shockwave's ability, you always know what is on top, and you can always set up some really cool things. I'm also going to be showing off that Reclaim here in a second, and that really cool combo that has a lot of power built into the combo. So those are the upgrades. Let's get into the action. Alrighty, our first card coming in on the action slot is going to be a 2-of, and is going to be Espionage. Espionage is a white battle icon, again really helping us out on attack and defense by flipping 2 additional cards. It is a green, which means that it is fishable. We can pick it up whenever we want, which is really powerful. And then it says choose a battle icon color. You then look at your opponent's hand and make them scrap a card of that chosen color. The one thing to notice about this is that you cannot choose a blank pip card. It does not have a color. So obviously watch out for some stuff like that. You can't hit One Shall Stands or I Still Functions or Gyro Blasters, stuff like that with this card, but you can pretty much hit anything else. And usually I'm always trying to hit cards that are going to benefit my opponent as far as their tempo goes. One thing that really hurts Shockwave, and I mean really hurts Shockwave, is Press the Advantage. That card is super unfair against Decepticons. That's for a whole nother conversation, but a lot of people say that it is an overpowered card and there's a lot that you can't really do about it. Espionage is one card that does stop it. I'm going to show you guys another card here in a second that also does stop it. This list is specifically really resilient against orange aggressive decks. It really kind of punishes them because they require to get their grenade launchers, reckless charges, press the advantages, all that good jazz. And this deck keeps your opponent top decking for pretty much the entire game, and then just really doesn't allow them to play their cards. And most people would say that is a really crappy effect of the game to really not get to play the game. But if you are having issues with a lot of stuff in your meta with your opponents just really being way too aggressive, they just have way too much power on the table, they're one-shotting your characters, this is going to be a really good deck, and that does punish those lists. Next card coming in, since we're talking about it, is going to be Infiltrate. I do main board 2 of these cards. Now, first off, it doesn't hurt the deck, which is really powerful. If you do have it on top of your deck, it is a secret action, which again, Shockwave's first ability does allow you to get that off the top. It is a blue battle icon helping us out on defense. And then it says when when your opponent plays an orange action, you may reveal this card, and that action has no effect, which is really powerful. I can't even tell you how many times I have hit Reckless Charge, Confidence, Press the Advantages with these Infiltrates. It is a super, super powerful card. I always main board it because those cards are really, really powerful to have against this list. And if you don't have it in your main board and you have to rely on it in your sideboard, you have a really tough hill to climb for your next 2 games. However, if you have it main board game 1 and you don't need it, you probably took game 1 since you didn't need it or used it, and then great, it's in your deck already, or you sideboard them out coming into game 2 if your opponent's running heavy blue. You're not seeing those really powerful orange actions because it does only hit orange actions. The next card coming in, again, messing around with the top of our deck, is going to be Scrounge. Now, I have spent so much time trying to make Scrounge work in a lot of really aggressive, like, upgrades, decks, and stuff like that, but my biggest issue, it's the same issue that I have with Treasure Hunt, is it finds itself whiffing a lot. I can't even tell you how many times I've tried to play this card and get absolutely nothing off the top, or play a Treasure Hunt and, like, get 1 upgrade out of the 4. For me, it's really bad. However, again, we can look at the top card of our deck at any time. So we can always know what's on top. Now, Scrounge is an orange battle icon, a green battle icon, so we can obviously fish it out whenever we need it, which is really nice. And then it does say scrap the top card of your deck. If it's an upgrade, you may play it. Again, we always get to see the top, so this card will never whiff. You look at the top, if it's not an upgrade you want to play, or if it's an action, then obviously you just hold on to Scrounge for the turn. You can also flip Shockwave, draw the card that's on top, still look at the top card of your deck, and then see if that's an upgrade that you want to play off Scrounge. So Scrounge is always a fantastic card, allows us to really maximize and really always have access to 1 additional card in our hand at all times off the top of the deck because of some of these abilities that we do have, whether it's an action, like I said, or some of the upgrades, which is really, really powerful. Now the next three that we have coming in are all going to be kind of down the removal side of things. First one is going to be Vaporize. It's a blue battle icon card, allows us to scrap an upgrade. We have Smelt, which is a blue battle icon and a green battle icon, allowing us to fish it up. That says that your opponent chooses one of their upgrades and scraps it. And then finally, Ramming Speed, an orange battle icon for that attack, scrap an enemy upgrade. Now on my mixed lists, I always run a Vaporize and a Ramming Speed. I never not run them. They are way too powerful. There are so many upgrades out there that really suck to be going up against, and if you don't have removal for it, it's a good chance that you're really far behind. This is more of a control deck. We really want to make sure that our opponent only has the things that we want them to have because we have answers ready to go for them. Now, the reason why I run Smelt is because late game our opponent is top decking, and sometimes they will top deck a good weapon, and it's hard for you to get rid of if you don't have a Ramming Speed or a Vaporize. So in those situations when our opponent only has one upgrade, no cards in hand, and we've really been controlling it the whole time, Smelt is going to be the perfect card to be able to play to get rid of those really pesky top-decked weapons, armors, whatever the case is. Next one coming in as a 3-of is going to be Battlefield Report. Now, it's Shockwave art. No, I'm just kidding. But it is a fantastic card. I run this in almost all of my mixed lists as well because it is a very powerful card. It is a blue battle icon, which is really nice. It is a secret action, which means we can get it off the top of our deck with Shockwave if needed, which is really powerful. It says when one of your characters defends, you get to draw 2 and then put 1 card back on top of your deck. Now, it is not optional to put 1 card back on top of your deck. You have to, but it's a really good way for us to put double blues back on top of our deck, or we get to put a white back on top of our deck. Now, one thing that I will tell you guys about these green pips and about putting stuff on top of the deck, I'm going to go back to Shockwave because, man, this ability is so powerful. It says you can look at the top card of your deck at any time, which means that you can draw your 2 cards off of Battlefield Report and then look at the top card of your deck and see what it is. That is so important to be able to see what's on top for you to decide what you want to stack. Maybe there's a white battle card icon on top, so you're like, oh great, I was thinking about putting a white on top to help me flip 2 more, but there's already a white. Let me put this blue on top. Now you know that you have a blue, a white, flipping 2 more cards, and then if you have Flame War out, she has tough, you're flipping another one. If you have the sparring gear, you have 2 more after that, so you're really flipping so many cards on defense. And like I said, you can look at the top, which is super powerful. If you look on top and see a double blue, then you're like, great, let me put that white on top of my deck, and now I'm flipping a white, double blue, and 2 more, and you go through the same scenario. However, if you like see that there's an orange on top, you know, okay, let me put this double blue on top, or whatever the case may be. That extra bit of knowledge is really, really important. The other cool part is, I think I have one here, is these are all off-colored. I posted on the Facebook group talking about them, and I hope you guys can see that. Let me see if I can get you guys a little bit of a better zoom in on these without trying to hit too much glare. But look at the color difference in those. I ended up getting like 7 or 8 out of these out of 1 box, and man, I absolutely love those washed colored cards. So anyway, little side note, super cool. Now the next one coming in is going to be Reclaim. Now Reclaim is super powerful in this list. It is a blue battle icon. It is an action card. It says put an upgrade from your scrap pile on top of your deck. Man, there it is. There's the really cool synergy. Now it also says if your tower is 3 or higher, draw a card. This is obviously designed for the combiners. You can find this in the Devastator deck, but I've been using it in so many things. Now with Shockwave, this is really powerful, so let's talk about this card. Now, first thing and most likely thing that I will usually do with it is I will reclaim one of my weapons from the scrap pile, put it on top of the deck like it says, and then you can flip, or even if you're in this mode, again, you can always have access to the top card of your deck. Well, now the top card of your deck is the launcher, guess what? You can just play it for the turn. That's really good. So now we're using our action and our upgrade for the turn. Our opponent still has to scrap a card, and we're swinging in for 9, or we can flip here, make our opponent scrap another card, we draw another card, and we're swinging in for 8. That is so good. The other really cool interaction that I know lots of people don't know about and don't use is if I have a grenade launcher in my scrap pile, I'm about to swing with my swoop, or I'm about to swing with my flame war, I can use Reclaim, put grenade launcher on top of my deck, and then I can play Field Communicator to play the top card of my deck, and then I get the grenade launcher. I can even do this with Shockwave. You can do it with any of the characters, really. It is just a super powerful ability. Usually with the deck, I have one or two of the launchers on, so I never really try to go to put the grenade launcher back on Shockwave unless it's like a really desperate thing. I only have one weapon out and I need to push as much damage as possible. But usually after the reset, one thing that's really cool that I do, like I said, because even swoop is one, I'll easily be in this mode. I'll play the field communicator, play the reclaim first, put grenade launcher on top, play field communicator, drop it on him. You can flip for the turn, and now you're swinging for 10 damage, really out of nowhere. And your opponent, it's impossible for them to respond to it, even if they have something like an Infiltrate, which is really the only card that can respond to things on your opponent's turn. Reclaim is a blue. You're set. There's nothing that really stops you, and you're getting in for, like I said, 10 damage before flips, just going with this scenario, which is really, really strong. Next card coming as a 3 of is going to be Rollout. Rollout, really good. It is an orange battle icon and a blue battle icon, so it doesn't hurt us on attack or on defense. And it is a flip each of your characters from bot mode to alt mode. Now this is primarily to make sure that no matter what, we're making our opponent always scrapping cards. We do not want them sitting with cards in their hand. It's really powerful because then they can't get their green cards, their enigmas, their press the advantages, or whatever the case is. Keeping them off of their powerful cards, keeping them off of cards, period, is very, very strong, and your opponent is relying on top decking, and it becomes way more difficult for them to close out the game on you when they're top decking and you have access to all of the answers. So it's easy while you're in this mode. If you need a double flip for the turn, you flip here to Shockwave, maybe you play a weapon off the top of the deck, whatever the case is, and then you play Rollout for the turn. You get to flip back, they scrap one, you draw one, really good. But I actually usually use this for my first sequencing. I usually do this at the end of the video, but I'll kind of show you guys now really what I do. I always have these guys in this specific order. All right, we have them in this order. I usually always flip Flame War at the start and attack with Swoop. Swoop gets in for like 3 to 5 damage, which is really nice. And then what I'll do is I'll flip the next turn. I'll flip Shockwave, send Flame War, and then coming into turn 3, I'll flip Swoop and then play Rollout if I have it. Now what that does, I get to flip Swoop, move 1 damage over to my opponent. I get to flip Shockwave. I get to draw a card, they scrap a card. I get to flip Flame War, which gives all of my characters bold. Again, not a bad thing because we have oranges in the deck. And then throw Shockwave for the turn. So it's really powerful. You get a lot of those effects right off the bat. But also, if I have to, I'll flip Swoop for the turn if he's about to die or my opponent has 1 health left. Play Rollout, flip him back to move that 1 point of damage over as well. Entirely a possibility to do for things, but like I said, always a really powerful card. The next one coming in is going to be UFO, the Unconventional Flying Object. Now originally I thought this card was kind of a joke until I started playing with it in this deck, and this is probably one of the best cards in the list. It is so powerful. It is a blue battle icon, really helping us out on defense, but allows us to flip a character from spaceship mode to bot mode and then back to alt mode. So it essentially allows us to flip twice. I'm sorry, it allows us to flip really 3 times for the turn because you're getting your first flip back, and then you get an additional normal flip for the turn. But this allows us to be in this mode and then go ahead, flip, and then make our opponent scrap a card. Now the other really cool part about it is that if you're in this mode, and this is what I was kind of showing you guys earlier, we're trying to make your opponent scrap 3 cards in a turn, is you go ahead and play the upgrade, your opponent scraps a card, you flip for the turn, your opponent scraps a card, you play UFO, you get to flip, and then your opponent scraps a 3rd card. And that is only by using 1 flip, 1 upgrade, and 1 action. And that is super powerful. Not to mention you're drawing 2 as well through both of your flips. So it is super, super good. Now, the one thing to note about it is that it does say flip one of your spaceships. You are not a spaceship in this mode. You have to be in this mode for you to be able to play the UFO. And then the last card coming in is going to be Security Checkpoint. Now, Security Checkpoint is a double blue battle icon card, but it also does get to really feed to Shockwave's ability. It says each player reveals their hand and scraps all upgrades from it. Now, you saw we don't really have a whole lot of upgrades, so we usually don't really have any in our hand when we do go to play the Security Checkpoint. However, even if we do have something that we have to scrap because we have the Field Communicator and Reclaim, we're always allowed to get things back. Now, those are in extreme situations when you really have to get rid of something that's important in your hand. Like if you go to play you go to flip Shockwave for the turn or whatever else, you see them scrap like a powerful action. You know maybe they're holding onto a grenade launcher or a power punch, especially in those aggressive lists. It's really easy to hit that security checkpoint and get all those kind of things out of their hands. There's so many weapons, the Static Laser of Ironhide, the Ion Blaster of Optimus Prime. There are a lot of really powerful weapons out there. So being able to security checkpoint a lot of those away, even if they're upgrades or armors or utilities, it's still really nice because we really want to have our opponent top decking. It's where a huge part of this deck's power comes from, is our opponent just not having access to answers, but we have access to all of our tools, whether it's scrap cards, weapons, reclaims, whatever the case is. We're always putting pressure on our opponent, and they don't have a hand to respond to it, which is, like I said, it's a really powerful effect. It does take a while to get the deck practice down for something like this, to know when to play battlefield reports or when to roll out or when to flip Shockwave, just to make sure that you're always kind of making the correct plays, because this deck can be punished when you do make a misplay. You choose not to make your opponent scrap a card, and then they play like grenade launcher, press the advantage, and then your Shockwave is probably dead, or you take way too much damage to where you just really can't recover. So it's always making sure that when you go to feed Shockwave to your opponent, that they don't have anything to really maximize their attack on him. They're really relying on their base damage and a couple of flips off the top of their deck. So that is the actions. Those are the upgrades. Let's get into my sideboard / not sideboard. Alrighty, now I said my sideboard, not sideboard, and it's because I really don't have a sideboard for this deck. Now the main reason why I don't really have a sideboard for the deck is that my main board really fits most things that I battle against, at least here locally. Most things that I would even come across, I would still feel very comfortable playing against, even if it even against like Superion or something like that. I would feel very comfortable with what I have main board, to where my sideboard really doesn't vary too much. Now, I will tell you, I do have a few cards, 2 of them being Callous Leadership. It is a white battle icon, allowing us to flip 2 more on attack, 2 more on defense. It does also have a Decepticon logo. This is a Decepticon card, so you can play it off the top with Shockwave, which is really nice. And then it says, move up to 5 damage counters from one of your Decepticon leaders, obviously going to be our Shockwave, that has 8 or more stars. Shockwave has 14, onto one of our other characters. Now this is a really powerful card if your opponent is choosing to go first, or they have access to cards that, like cars, that allow them to untap and attack untapped characters with like B, or you're always tapped down and they always play cards like Start Your Engines or Turbo Boosters, and they're just applying so much pressure to Shockwave and they're really not worried about your other characters. I bring in the Callous, move 5 of that damage over to one of my littler characters. It just allows him to survive longer and allows him to really just keep doing those things and just beating up our opponent over and over and over. And then obviously if you play a second one, I mean, potentially moving up to 10 damage off of Shockwave, meaning he's taking 27 damage to KO, is absolutely insane. It's a really powerful card. Now the next one coming in, again for those really big aggro matchups, is going to be Dampening Field White. Get 2 more on attack, 2 more on defense. It is a secret action, so we get off the top of his ability. And then it says, reveal when your opponent attacks, they can't flip more than 4 cards during the attack. Now this is designed for bold characters, Lionizer, Grimlock, Wheeljack, all those really powerful characters that, I mean, even like General Prime, or someone that's got like a weapon, power punches, all those good things. This really allows us to shut them down so they're not flipping more than 4. And obviously if they're not flipping more than 4, you probably have as much defense, maybe at 1 or 2 points less defense. So you're only taking a couple points of damage to your Shockwave, which is really powerful. I did use this the other day when my opponent, I KO'd their Lionizer. They put their Lionizer on their Grimlock. They flipped Grimlock for the turn to give himself Bold 3, so now he's at Bold 7, and then did play a Supercharge, giving him Bold 10, and then went to swing into Shockwave, and I did reveal the Dampening Field, and man, you want to talk about completely shutting that swing down. I always feel kind of bad when I do that, because my opponent is pouring so much into their swing because they know they have to, and then just get completely shut down by a Dampening Field. But it is a real card. It does do awesome things, also including if you're going up against Kickback, Barrage. Really good card against Kickback because it doesn't technically turn off Bold, and Kickback doesn't technically have Bold, so it does only allow him to flip 4 for the turn, so he's swinging for like maybe 3 to 5 damage, so it's really nice card. And then the next one coming in is going to be Energy Pack. It is an orange battle icon, and then it is a utility. Really nice to put on Shockwave in his utility side if you're not going for the Gyro Blaster. Having this, having sparring gear, and then having a couple of weapons, this guy is kitted, and he is going to be almost impossible to KO for your opponent. It does give any character, the character that it's obviously upgraded to that has 11 or more stars, 4 additional health, meaning that Shockwave has 21 health. Ugh. Like I said, it's pretty gross, especially with the sparring gear situation. It takes so much damage for your opponent to be able to get through a Shockwave. It is absolutely insane. The character definitely feels like a leader. He feels like a really powerful main character. I build my decks to be very main character, mid-range character, support character, sometimes 2 support characters, however it kind of works out. That's why I do run this list. That's why I run Flame War and so much stuff. She is probably the best support character in the entire game. She is just always so good, especially if you're obviously running blues and stuff. And being able to give us tough in this is way more important because we do run some oranges. It's not all heavy blue, so trying to rely on getting that extra tough one is really nice to be able to make sure we get those extra blues. And then I do run that mid-range character, like I said. He gets in there for good amounts of damage. If you're 5 in this mode, you're flipping a couple blues on defense, and then being able to flip and get some extra damage in is really, really powerful. Now, the main reason why I don't finish the sideboard, I don't have a sideboarded character, again, like I said, I really can answer so much of my meta with this list and with these few cards sideboarded. I don't really have to rely on someone else. Now, depending on your meta, which is what your sideboard should always be built for, is if you're going up against heavy aggro, you already have a couple of answers main board with the Infiltrates, with the Gyro Blasters. Again, you bring in the Dampening Fields. If you're having a big issue with a lot of armor in your area, let's say a lot of really heavy blue decks, bring in some Bashing Shields. You can bring in another Ramming Speed or another Vaporize, have those in your sideboard. If you're going up against aerial bots a lot, or even Insecticons that run that more direct damage route, you can put in Take Cover, a secret action. It's a blue. You can use his ability to get off the top. It says that your characters can't take direct damage from your opponent's stuff, which is really powerful, so they can't really hit Shockwave with that stuff, like Photon Bombs, Marksmanships, Inferno Breaths, all those good things. You really get to protect him with that. So there are quite a bit of different things that you guys can build your sideboard for. Now, I will say, if you want to go down to the comment section below and message me and say, hey, this is my meta, what character should I put in? I can reply to you guys and kind of let you know what I think would be best for you guys. It's too broad of a sentence for me to try to sit there and say everything that's in the game that's really good for against stuff. Like, there are a lot of cards that are very good for a lot of different matchups. So it really depends on what you're playing the most in your area. So like I said, go down to the comment section below. First off, let me know what you guys think about the deck, but also if you guys have any questions about it, obviously head down there and leave those there for me. Now, in addition to that, I really hope that you guys did enjoy this deck profile video, the breakdown of all of the cards. Like I said, I'm absolutely loving this deck. It is super powerful, and I mean, for me, it's probably one of the best things that I can play. It has that mid-range, it has that control, it has all of that really good stuff, so I absolutely love it. Now, if you guys did love it, please, please, please give me a like on the video. Obviously, it shows me your guys' support. Lets me know that you guys did obviously like it, and I can continue to do more of these. And then make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel so you guys can get access to everything as soon as it becomes available. I'll catch you guys in the next one.